Good morning. We are here today to present some special information regarding COVID-19 and where we're at currently with respect to the pandemic here in Kahnawà. We did speak at K103 Live this morning with Paul Grafe. We're giving very similar information, but we felt that this would have a more widespread communication strategy. So we wanted to make sure that we reach as many people as possible so that you have all the information that you need to be able to make informed choices. Again, which is our main goal, is to give you that information and education so that you can feel safe and be safe with your families. So currently, we've had a huge increase in COVID-19 cases in Kahnawà since last Sunday. So there's been an increase of 22 cases since last Sunday. And again, we are at 22 active cases currently, although we are waiting on results and expect those numbers to increase still at the current time. So those 22 cases, they're made up from 4 separate clusters. Those 4 clusters include 2 classes at step-by-step. So the cases within those 2 classes are not interrelated. So they're considered to be 2 separate classes. Although one class is linked with a closed class, a kindergarten class at Cattery School. And so those are 2 clusters. We have a 3rd cluster in a separate class at Cattery School. And we have another case, a small amount of people at one positive case at KSS, at Survival School. And so the 22 cases are linked in one way or another to those 4 clusters that I just mentioned. So how are we handling this? So really important, first of all, for us to move, we moved over the weekend to a red alert level. This is to advise the community that we're at an increased risk and that decisions you make for yourself, for the activities that you participate in, for how your family might go about gatherings or outings, so that you can make informed decisions about the potential risk within the community. So we're asking community members to reflect before they do any activity, to really ask themselves whether in this particular time it's the safest to be doing activities in groups outside of your household. Again, these are personal decisions for you to make, but we feel it important to give you the information that currently we are at an increased risk. So we've had this many cases before, back in July, but the reason why we feel we're at an increased risk at the current time is because we still do not have a full handle on the extent of the transmission. So currently, in order to get a better picture, for public health to have a better picture of the situation, we have, in consultation and work with step-by-step administration, chosen to close step-by-step daycare. What we'll be doing is, over the course of the next 3 days, asking all students at the daycare and educators to be tested, and this is going to give us those results will give us a better idea on the extent of the transmission within the daycare. As you know, as we know, we are always at an increased risk compared to other communities around us because of all the links that we have, and we feel that some of the positive cases may have links in other classrooms, in other areas of the community as well, and so this is going to give us a better idea whether that transmission has occurred or not. On Wednesday, when we do have results from all of these screens that we're going to be doing, then we'll be able to make better choices about whether we actually close the daycare for an extended period of time or whether we reopen on Thursday. So really important, if you do have a child that attends step-by-step, that you take the time to have your children tested or screened, and that's going to help us get a better picture of where we're at in the community and whether there is more widespread transmission from those outbreaks that have occurred at the school. One thing I wanted to talk about is the origin, or some of the elements that we have under our control in order to prevent transmission once we have COVID cases. So remember, COVID is still here, and we do expect to have COVID cases. That's not unusual. And our goal is to stop transmission to others as much as possible, so to contain the virus to the cases that are identified. So these current outbreaks and this rapid increase demonstrates to us that the virus was not contained. So what are some of the things that we can all do to ensure to stop transmission? The first is to get tested when you have symptoms. Right now, there is a lot of colds that are going around, cold-like symptoms, runny nose, headache, cough. We tend to disregard it as a cough or a cold, and we don't get tested. And when we do that, if we happen to go back to school or we happen to be going around the community, there is potential that we have COVID. So right now we're in a position where we're asking you as community members to consider every cold-like symptom to be COVID, and therefore to get tested so that you can know whether it is COVID or whether it's a cold. This is something that we all have control over and is really, really important to prevent mass transmission. So please, if you have cold-like symptoms, if your child is feeling off, is not feeling themselves, please get tested. That's the first step. Our public health team, as you know, one of the elements that we always speak about in containing the virus is being able to identify cases, contact trace, and isolate within 24 to 48 hours. The public health team is currently overwhelmed, and this is another reason why we moved to red, because we feel that we won't be able to respond quickly enough if cases continue to rise, and therefore, if we can't respond quickly enough, it means that there could potentially be other COVID cases that should be in isolation, or people with symptoms or contacts of cases that should be in isolation that are not currently in isolation, and therefore are at risk of not knowing that they have COVID themselves or that they're a contact, and therefore potentially transmitting to others. And this is why we're asking you to limit your outings and your gatherings for the short period of time in order for us as a community to contain these outbreaks. Very, very important. We're working tirelessly. The public health team continues to do what they need to do. However, it is very difficult when you have such a large increase of cases in a short period of time to have enough resources to be able to respond to the demand. Just though to make it clear that we did work through the weekend and we are on top of things at the current moment. However, should there be many more cases, there is potential for inability to meet the demand. One small change that I wanted to mention to the community about the symptom list for COVID-19. If you go to the KMHC website, you'll see the grid that lists symptoms for COVID-19. There have been changes to that symptom list over time, over the last almost 2 years. The most recent change is that runny nose and congestion has been re-added to the list as a COVID-19 symptom. So if you do have congestion and you're unable to identify what that congestion is from, meaning it's not from allergies, you're not sure why you're congested, that could be a COVID symptom, and therefore you should be tested. So those are some of the reasons why we feel we're at an increased risk at the current moment and why we moved to a red alert. But I want to talk a little bit about the red alert, and Lloyd will give more information. But the red alert, we are not in a state of emergency. We are still in a state of recovery, meaning we continuously move towards a state of normalcy. And part of that movement will involve waves, so periods of time where we need to buckle down, periods of time where we can be a little bit less restrictive with ourselves and the decisions we make. And so the color system that we've put in place during the state of recovery is a color system that is about education. It's about sensitization. It allows us to have an easier way of explaining to the community when they need to be a little bit more careful and when they can be a little bit more safe in their decisions. So the red is really a time for us to explain that we're currently at an elevated state of risk. And therefore, again, like I mentioned earlier, the decisions that you make should be in consequence to that elevated state of risk. And that's what we're hoping as we move through the next while with COVID, is that you have the independence and the autonomy to make decisions based on the level of risk that we bring forth to you. And that is really important. So during that state of recovery, if we go backwards to, the beginning of the pandemic, when we went into a state of emergency and we had a complete lockdown, of course, there was a lot of control that the task force had over activities within the community. And in fact, every single planned activity passed through the task force, was evaluated for safety, and then was given the go-ahead with measures, no measures, etc. We're no longer in that phase. We've come a long way. The community is knowledgeable. You all have all the information you need to make decisions. And during a state of recovery, it's up to individual organizations, of course, within the limitations that we've presented in the reopening phase 5. Within those limitations, it's still up to individual organizations to make decisions about events that they may organize. So for example, there was the parade, that was a beautiful parade that happened last week by the PKs. There are gatherings that are happening in some of the organizations within the community. There's also the Winter Wonderland that's taking place currently. All of these activities are planned, organized, and measures decided by the organizers of those particular events. So the task force, the commission, the Public Safety Commission and Public Health, are not involved in making decisions about how those events will happen. So that's a really important point, because as much as we're giving the community, as much as we give information so the community is able to make individual choices for themselves and their families, organizations, event organizers are also in that same predicament, where they have to look at all the facts and make decisions that are best for their particular event. So we wanted to just bring some clarity to that, because there seems to be a lot of confusion around that, and at this particular moment, that's where we're at. So as we watch these outbreaks and see how COVID progresses within the community over the next couple of weeks, there is a potential that we would have to go to more restrictions. However, currently, what we're asking is that individuals and organizers make decisions that are best in the best interest of safety and health currently within the community. So I'm going to let Lloyd follow up with that. He has a little bit more information to give. One last thing, vaccinations. So vaccinations are still continuing. Vaccinations are always a personal choice. Anybody under the age of 12 being vaccinated requires consent from a parent. There, of course, are other options and other traditional medicines that could be beneficial as well. These are personal choices. However, as a Public Safety Commission and Public Health, we do recommend vaccination as the best defense against COVID-19. And I'll let Lloyd finish up with some more information. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, for the information, and good morning once again, Kahnawà. I just want to come on here to reiterate a few points made this morning on K103, just to emphasize where we're at as a community. And Lisa did touch on some of the points, but I just wanted for us to be clear. Yes, during a state of recovery, our primary goal is awareness and education and recommendations to community. However, there still is, in accordance with the Kahnawà Emergency Preparedness Law, there still is the ability, which has been delegated to the Public Safety Commission, to make and modify measures, for public health and public safety, if need be. Which means that there is a possibility, if need be, that measures or restrictions could be increased. That's not what we're looking at as we speak today. That's why we did an assessment over the weekend, and it was determined to move to the red level of alert, so people are once again become aware and are reminded that we are at a significant level of risk currently in our community. So I just wanted to be clear, because I want to, I can't predict what will happen in 2 days, 2 weeks down the road, or 2 months down the road for that matter. But our goal is not to limit people's ability to live their lives. It's about education. But if there is a significant risk that we do feel measures have to be taken, that will be something that we would definitely recommend to the Commission, and a decision will be made accordingly. Because we've seen with these recent outbreaks, there is definitely a ripple effect in the community. The fact that there's cases at Step by Step, for example, and the impacts where that goes to a large amount of work that was done over the weekend by the public health team, but that also impacts, as you've seen and may have heard, at Kahnawà School, where that they had to close for the day because parents had to. Teachers who are parents had to adjust their schedules, and there's a case there. So it does have major impacts, not just on individuals, but across the entire community. And again, like I said this morning, I think it's worth repeating, and the people who have been working, those front lines have been doing this work at a high level, for over a year and a half, and it is taxing on everybody. And we're all here, trying to minimize this. We don't want to overreact, but we don't want to underreact as well, because we want to get a handle on where things are going. Everybody wants to have a safe, holiday season. Everybody wants to enjoy the holiday season, especially our children. So we want to take measures now to get a handle on where things are going and have people make decisions accordingly. Just a couple other points I want to touch on this morning was regards to, again, first of all, I think it's important that we emphasize the fact about the vaccination campaign, which started last Friday, where we did have a number of children come through with the Knights of Columbus Hall, throughout the late afternoon and into the evening. I was there to witness that, to witness the first youth to be vaccinated. Parents were very happy, and all the parents coming through there were very grateful for the fact that we have this available within our community. But I also want to remind people that if there is, we have put together the vaccination for our community, and we will continue to do that. But if for whatever reason, if you don't want to go in the community, you could book through the regular Quebec sites and get your child vaccinated outside Kahnawà, if for whatever reason that's what you choose to do. But the bottom line is, and evidence has shown, and scientific evidence has shown that the vaccination is still the cornerstone and the best way to protect yourselves and the best way to keep us moving on that path towards normalcy. And once we get the vast majority of people vaccinated, we could certainly hope that we will enter into our new normal. And it was unfortunate, there was some people who were at the site on Friday, and I did address this again this morning at K103, who were passing out information to community members. One pamphlet was talking about traditional medicine and alternatives to various antivirals and antibacterials, which is fine. There are traditional medicines there, and I don't want to be interpreted as being opposed to traditional medicine, which nobody is. As a matter of fact, when we had our opening in March, of the vaccination center at the bingo hall, we did have a traditional person there who did do some prayers, and we did burn some tobacco and had a fire where it was talked in great length about the blending of modern medicine or Western medicine and traditional medicine and moving forward. And so that's extremely important. But on the other hand, there was also information as last Friday that was handed out that talked about cleansing baths, that was taken off the internet, that talks about Epsom salts and borax, which is a cleaning product, and to bathe a child in this type of thing is very dangerous. And also links to websites that had a lot of false information. So that's what I was referring to. I mean, this information, it could cause doubt in people's minds, and it adds an additional level of anxiety to the children, first and foremost, because I did hear it and see it firsthand that some children who are already stressed and already nervous about going to get a vaccination because they don't want to get a needle, as many kids don't, but then to have extra pressure on them is certainly uncalled for. So I want to address that and be perfectly clear doing that. And again, I am happy that I was able to see a number of Kahnawà smiling faces, when they seen their child be vaccinated, and knowing that again it's a part of protecting yourself, but it's also part of protecting our community, and they were very thankful. So I don't want to just harp on the on any negativity, but certainly there was a lot of positive there when seeing the smiling faces of individuals. So what we are going to be doing over the next couple of days is when we get more testing done, we're going to be evaluating where things are within the community. And as we always did, we consider many factors. Public health and public safety is always paramount. But again, we always consider the economic, political, and social well-being of our community, assess the mental impacts and psychological impacts on our community, and make decisions accordingly. And if we could take steps in the next while to go back to a yellow level alert, and feel safety and secure in doing that, we will. But if we feel, unfortunately, if things don't get any better, and we'll have to consider alternate options. We will act accordingly, as we've been doing for the past year and a half, to do our utmost to advise and protect our community. But at the state and where we are with the reopening of many things in the community, there is a sense of normalcy in many areas, already in Kahnawà. We don't have that level of ability to watch what's happening throughout, and which is not our intent. So again, it's up to individuals, organizations, organizers, business people to take that extra cautious, extra vigilance for this short period of time, allow us to get a handle on where things are going and keep our community safe the way we've been doing it since the beginning of the pandemic. Nyamagoa.